Some games have flaws that are so blatant, so clearly present, you begin to think that the developers had no say over it. Maybe the lead developer was attached to a stupid mechanic, maybe the game was lazily ported to your system, maybe the business side of the company overrules the balance team. You try to explain away these things with more reasonable ideas than the developers were just fucking stupid and didn't even play their own game. Mafia 3 lacks explanation. I can't even begin to understand where they started to fuck up. But I'm beginning to think that Hangar 13, the developers of Mafia 3, Mafia Definitive Edition, and some unannounced original IP of their own, is just the worst game studio ever. I love Mafia 2. A lot of people love Mafia 2 and Mafia 1. These games took themselves very seriously. They had the game play out like a movie. Then when the action started, they dropped you into the driver's seat to do all the killing. And then they dropped you into the driver's seat to do all the driving. And soon enough, you became Tommy Angelo and Vito Scaletta. Mafia 3, this game is more like a Roblox tycoon. I don't fucking know what this is. It starts off really strong. I mean it, and that's one thing I will never ever decline to acknowledge. You're put into a constantly developing and shifting world. The story presents itself as a documentary. You get to know all these interesting characters very quickly, ideas begin to clash, and you're forming all these opinions, getting all these impressions and ideas. But then, boom, the game just falls right onto its face after the first few hours. The rest of the game has you driving constantly to like 100 quests. The game practically never takes over and puts you where you need to be like the older ones used to do between chapters. It drops the linear style and tells you to do all the quests in whatever order. It barely fucking matters what order you do them in though, because all these quests are identical. Seriously, no exaggeration. I can't tell you how many times I'd be doing a quest and think, wait, wasn't I doing this exact same thing in this exact same spot like an hour ago? You drive up to a place, try to sneak around, then just kill everyone there, secure the racket, interrogate or kill a specific guy, whatever. After a while, you call a sit down, give some property to one of 3 people, and piss off the other 2. And this is copy-pasted over and over and over. Sometimes you might accidentally do a quest that's part of the story. You get a couple cutscenes, some dialogue, maybe a cool location. Sometimes you talk to your friend Donovan and he'll say something funny or badass. Most of the time though, you're just killing people, running from the cops, and wishing you were playing something else. It's a real challenge to make it through this game. The peak of the gameplay is driving fast on a highway listening to the radio, which is all 60s music. Everything else you do is just fighting off the shitty mechanics and pressing C to heal sometimes. A good majority of this game is combat and stealth, so naturally, the combat and stealth do not work at all. Sometimes you'll pick the stupidest fucking spot to hide and nobody will see you. Other times the process of actually killing someone undetected will require you to go so far out of your way that you might as well just go guns blazing. All of these interactions are so lazily designed that they feel auto-generated. No thought went into making these work correctly. The shooting feels sloppy and unsatisfying. You can only carry 2 weapons at a time. Ammo resets and there's no shops to steal ammo from. The guns have the stupidest fucking names.
Here we go. That's the M60 machine gun in there. The LMG. What the fuck is what is a Hartmann 7.62? That's not what this is called. That's not what that is. And you might think like, no, like it's like, you know, maybe like the M60 was made by someone named Hartmann. No, I looked it up. I cannot find anything to do with Hartmann with the M60. That's just, they just made this shit up. If you think that's bad, why don't you go over here and look at the Pasadena AR-30. Maybe you're more of a fan of the Stromer 223. Yes, the Masterson semi-auto. Many of these standard issue sidearms ended up in circulation and on the streets after World War II, because that's when the 1911 was made, after World War II. They called it the 1911 in Mafia 2. They did. I know that because I fucking played it, because I looked and I was like, yeah, it's a 1911. Of course, standard fucking gun to be using in the 40s. Why did what is the point? I swear it, I promise you. There's no way in hell that 1911 is copyrighted. If it is, fuck it. You might have to pay. I mean, you're already asking me to pay $7,000 for the thing. What's this one called? The Mayweather MO483. That might be a real name, actually.
All in all, the combat just kinda sucks. They make it really hard to enjoy the arsenal that you have access to, which sucks because it's a lot of classic weapons that everyone likes, and it just pads the time. Since the game is open world, I thought I wasn't playing it right and decided to go around and explore, take in the atmosphere. It's the South in the 60s, so as far as the story goes, all they really do in terms of world building is mention racism. But let's see what else they have here. Surprise! More racism. Yeah, go ahead. Drive your point home. There was a lot of racial tension in the South in the Civil Rights era. I've been to Louisiana before. I've been to New Orleans. They do talk about race in the South. But you know what else happens in the South that they forgot in this game? Literally anything else. There's absolutely fucking nothing to find in New Bordeaux aside from things to steal and restaurants that are for whites only. Radios will play a song, say something about politics, and just go right back to music.
Today, Congress passed legislation to offer home ownership subsidies, affordable apartments, and riot insurance for citizens who reside in low-income neighborhoods. The projected cost for this housing relief program could be as high as $30 billion over the next 40 years.
The world is only defined by racism and lacks believability beyond that, and you're supposed to be like, man, this is fucked up. They're treating me like I'm a criminal just because of the color of my skin. But then you remember, wait a minute, I am a criminal. I've been killing hundreds of people and just robbed a store before I got here. I was planning on stealing stuff from this restaurant, you know? I'd probably kick me out of my restaurant too. It's hard to feel sympathetic for Lincoln Clay, period. One of the biggest dilemmas in this game is between morality, the fact that everything you're doing is horrible, regardless of what you face, versus justice. If you don't do all these horrible things, nothing's going to change. This is actually embodied by the two characters, John Donovan and Father James, who argue about it constantly through the story. Lincoln Clay is not a good person. He's a criminal, an outcast, a threat to society. He is aware of this and actively chooses this way of life because he doesn't mind. I do not feel bad for him. And if you're not supposed to feel sympathy, which clearly you aren't, then what's the point of including all this stuff in lieu of an actual atmosphere? You're begging the people who play this game to get annoyed by it, as if we'd get banned off of YouTube for criticizing it. Hopefully you aren't right about that. The story of this game isn't terrible, but at times, it's plagued by the exact same problem. Take for example this scene with Sal Marcano. He's the Don of the Italian mob in New Bordeaux and the main bad guy, who killed your crime family, which was also your real family that took you in as an orphan. And he's talking with his son Georgie, who was your friend until he betrayed you and killed your crime family because his dad said to. Then shot you in the head, but you lived because it didn't hit your brain and Father James found you in time. Anyways, Sal Marcano is starting to worry about his son's safety. It's later revealed in the story that he's having nightmares about his son's funeral, and he doesn't like his crime empire risking lives for money anymore. So he's telling Georgie that they're going to just run a casino and get all their money through safer vices. Georgie thinks it's boring, and Sal starts to show how stressed and paranoid he is about all this, which is a crucial moment in the story to show the state that the main antagonist is in, and it's followed up by both of them finding out that Lincoln Clay, your guy, is still alive. This could have been such an interesting, powerful scene, except just in the middle of all of this, Sal starts saying a bunch of racist shit for no reason at all. Georgie says, "Aw, man, I don't want to run no casino." And Sal's like, "But Georgie, you have to, because it's the only way." And then he says the N-word and starts complaining about racial equality.
Sounds boring as fuck.
It's the only way, son. The world is changing. Used to be people knew their place. Now everybody's screaming about equality. And now they all deserve a slice of the pie.
Bruh.
Race, you name it.
Like, what? What the fuck? What does that even mean? Why? Jesus Christ. Why do you just have to throw that in there? Now the scene isn't about Sal Marcano cracking under paranoia, not even realizing the danger he's in. Now it's about Sal Marcano is racist. We gotta get this guy. This game cannot resist spoiling a good moment and is just filled to the brim with stupid-ass dialogue.
Butcher and his boys are right behind me.
You sure?
If there's one benefit to being your miserable dot, it's I know what a posse of Dago assholes out for blood looks like.
Here's how I would have written that interaction.
Butcher and his boys are right behind me.
You sure?
Yes. You know, I have a question. Why is Vito Scaletta in this game? Actually, I have a couple of questions. Why is this a Mafia game at all? Since when has the Commission of Empire Bay had anything to do with another city? Why would Joe have been able to flee to the south in Joe's adventures if the Commission had any hand in the south? Why would Joe have fled to Chicago if he had fled to the south in the past? Why does Chicago exist in this world when no other real cities do? And no, that's not Joe. Why would Leo ever have him working in the same town as Vito? Speaking of Leo Galante, why is he still doing anything? Why is Vito Scaletta in this game? Why is this a Mafia game? Those last two questions are the important ones because they have no good answer. This game doesn't fit as a Mafia game, it doesn't fit into the universe, and doesn't fit the same themes. Vito Scaletta shouldn't have been included. His character is just completely different. I think they had another guy written and just decided to slap Vito's face onto him to please Mafia 2 fans who they knew would hate this game. If you haven't seen it in a while, go back and watch the ending of Mafia 2 and tell me that Vito, armed to the teeth in that car, after his speech to Carlo Falcone, would just give up right there and end up doing more of this shit in New Bordeaux.
Me and him tried to do something big for this motherfucker named Leo Galante. Big shot with the commission. Anyways, it all went south and we got fucked. That's what you get for following orders, right?
This is just incorrect. Fuck. Fuck this game. Hangar 13 just fucked up on so many fronts, and they continue to produce dog shit to this day, with the buggy re-release of Mafia 2 and a remake of Mafia that feels less like a remake and more like a Mafia 3 DLC.
President-elect Nixon. Violent clashes.
Oh no, please! I got a wife and kid!
You should have thought of that before.
Mafia 3 is kind of a tricky game to review. There's so much good and bad that falls differently onto everybody who played it. Some people were most bothered by the bugs, of which there were a lot on release day. Other people were bothered by how much of a boring, grindy game it is to play, and people like me were bothered by the ways it forgot itself and stripped a lot of value away from the beloved classics that came before it. But I feel like at least what's good about it is something that everyone can appreciate. I don't know, but I'll give you mine. It's the characters. I don't think Lincoln Clay is that great of a character, but Donovan and Father James are fantastic. I don't think any of these characters are brilliant on paper, but the way that they play out in cutscenes is really something special. I mentioned these two guys before because they really stand out. Donovan is just not the kind of character I expected to see going into a game like this. A game with just serious, consequential tone, and Donovan just doesn't get fazed by any of it. He doesn't care. Sounds like a fucking nightmare. Sounds like something that would completely ruin the story. But just watch the cutscenes with this guy in them.
What are you saying? I'm saying that Sal Marcano and a group of conspirators murdered Jack Kennedy. Oh, that is the most absurd thing I have ever heard. I assumed you would say that.
Father James, he might not be a revolutionary character, but he keeps you invested and makes you forget sometimes that this is just a video game. Father James is probably the only guy who actually cares about Lincoln's well-being. He's the way in which this game quite literally lets you choose between heaven or hell, between good and evil. I think there's a good amount of people who completely ignored him, but in my case, he was the biggest influence on how I actually played, and that's really something special because I'm normally the kind of player who downloads mods to make every character killable. At the end of the day, Hangar 13 fucked up, then fucked up again, then fucked up again. I'm very critical of this company because they started off with a reputation to uphold, and they need to know that. But when you just kind of fuck around with a series like Mafia, you can get away with it, but it's not like nobody cares. You're taking whole worlds, set up and built throughout years of people's lives, and just kind of spray painting over them with your own. I don't care, it's just not right. If you want to fix it, here's a quick checklist. First, Mafia 3 is no longer canon. Second, get better at making combat. Third, bring back the linear mission style. And fourth, never make another Mafia game again. Let someone else do it, that's it.